Howdy, riders. Welcome back to a very special episode of Ride Between the Wines. In this episode, I sat down with Kathryn Hall of Hall Winery and had a fantastic time learning about her life, how she got here, the journey to the 100-point wine. So please enjoy this very much. If you get a chance to go out and try the Kathryn Hall. We were drinking the 16. The 17 was released, I think, earlier this week, and I suspect it's absolutely as delicious as the 16 was. I'd like to take a moment to thank David Greenbaum because I didn't actually mention you on the episode, but he's the guy who hooked me up here with Hall. So thanks, Paulie. And I would like to say that every episode of this, I learn a new trick to get me a little bit better in quality. And this episode turned out to present the biggest challenge yet, which was while we were recording it, I did not realize there was background noise, and so I have spent a very long time getting out a little bit of clicking sounds. So there's a couple times when it's going to come up, but I think I got most of it out, but apologies for that. Otherwise, amazing episode, so please enjoy, and yeah, let's go.
The world we live in is an amazing one, full of passion, wonderment, and of course, fine wine. This is the story of one man's journey to fully understand and appreciate that world. So kick the tires and light the fires. It's time to ride between the wines.
So welcome. This is a very special episode, everybody. I am here with Kathryn Hall of Hall Winery. Kathryn, thank you so much. This is such a pleasure to have you here on my show.
Mike, thank you so much for having me. I'm very delighted to be here. Enjoy your podcast anyway, and I'm glad I get to be part of it now.
So about my podcast, I don't know if anybody's told you this. First of all, there's two things that I kind of wanted to say. The podcast that we're doing right now is going to air in a few weeks from now, so it's not going to quite work, but we're actually here on August 26th, this is the 100th anniversary of Women's Equality Day and of the 19th Amendment. So it didn't happen on purpose, but how great to be talking to you today, because not only are you a huge woman pioneer for Napa Valley, but you have so many different women on staff who work with you. So that's the first thing that I want to mention. And the other thing more about the podcast is, speaking of one of those women, Allison Fritzschul is the entire reason that I have a podcast, because I
didn't know that.
I know. I've always sort of, whenever I have a supplier in the car with me or a winemaker, at some point I decided to start just recording their stories while we drive around, because it's much better than a text sheet and I can't remember all of it, so I can go back and refer to it. And Allison was in the car with me, I guess 2 years ago or whenever I started this, and I was recording her, and then I guess we were just talking. I was like, you know what? Everybody else would like to hear this. And so it started my audio podcast, which is now built to a video podcast. But yeah, Allison is who everybody else will talk about a little bit later in the episode, I'm sure.
Oh, that's so great.
I wanted to tell you that.
I love that. Yeah.
Yeah. But anyways, let's just jump right in. I mean, I know you have a huge background in Napa and Mendocino, California wine scene, but tell us about your background and how you kind of got where you are.
So let's see. I'll just first say I feel I've been very lucky. That's the main thing, that how I got to be where I am. I am doing the job that I have dreamed of. I'm living my dream, and I feel lucky every single day. I gotta say that. So I grew up, I grew up in the Bay Area, in California Bay Area, and I was born actually in Berkeley, which is down by San Francisco. And then my dad decided we were going to be in the wine business. I mean, he was a pharmacist, but he loved farming. He loved the outdoors, and he loved wine. And I think he just figured out one day that I'm going to bring it all together. And so he took our family up to Mendocino. In those days, Daddy was looking for what he thought was beauty, and this was back in the 70s, 1970s. And UC Davis had not really done a whole lot of in-depth work yet. I mean, they are our go-to, of course, in our industry now, but and there are, Sonoma State is also doing some wonderful jobs, and I think San Jose State as well. But anyway, UC Davis has for me anyway, sort of written the book. And in those days, though, all that Davis had when they talked about wine in the U.S. was whether you could plant viniferous grapes or non-viniferous grapes, but it didn't go any deeper than that. There was nothing about Chardonnay, Pinot Noir, Cabernet, anything like that. There was just, that was it. And so we ended up in Mendocino, and the vineyard that Daddy planted was sort of everything he liked to drink, right? It was, so it was Zinfandel and Cabernet and Chardonnay and Sauvignon Blanc. Yeah, it was a little bit of everything. And so, and they were just all sort of spaced around. And then we grew for other wineries. John Parducci he was older than my dad, but still, but a friend. And John has now honestly just died a couple of years ago. He was just an amazing pioneer himself, I think, and had great old stories. And so we sold our grapes to Parducci and to Behringer and to Fetzer, I think, in those days. So anyway, and then I always wanted our family to be in the wine making business, not just the viticulture side of it. And that was never something that my family wanted to do. I was that was it. So anyway, as my parents passed on, then I got to do what I wanted to do, but I couldn't afford to do it on my own. I had to have other jobs. So I've had other careers. I practiced law for many years. I was a diplomat. I had other positions, and that actually have been very helpful to me, I think, now in terms of how we market, because you don't sell your wines to the wine industry, you sell them to the world. And so I'm really glad that I had other experiences being outside of our industry. And then about 20 years ago, I had a chance to come back to Napa. It was time. And it was just, had a wonderful job working in the State Department, and people would say, how could you leave this job? I was ambassador. And I remember thinking, now I get to do what I really want to do. Yeah. So anyway, so then I came home, and I came back, and then my husband, who is not a wine guy, or wasn't originally, he actually, when I first met him, he didn't even drink wine, which I thought was like a deal breaker.
Crazy.
Yeah, right. Like this relationship would never go anywhere. And then, but now he's grown to love it. And I think actually he's got a fabulous nose. He's brilliant nose in particular on wine. But anyway, he said, okay, fine, we'll just do that. He's got his own career, but he was willing to make some sacrifices really for me. And so we came out. He kept his business, which is based in Dallas, which is actually where I am right now.
Okay.
But he is anyway, he was right there with me. So we got our first vineyard, which is the Sacrochet vineyard, which is actually the core of the fruit of the wine that you and I will be drinking together today.
Okay. And
the first vineyard we bought in, for me, my favorite vineyard for so many reasons. And then our business has grown. I never intended it to be quite so large. I mean, I didn't think about that. What I thought about was I wanted to make great wine at non-cult pricing. And so I wanted to sort of over deliver in terms of the pricing. I work with people who are incredibly talented and very committed and who share ideals. I don't think anybody works together very long if you don't have similar values and similar goals, but we all have been working together a very long time now. And so that our team is, it's very cohesive. We know each other very, very, very well. When I look at our winemaking team, you talk about Allison Frichtel, but Allison is our assistant winemaker, and our director of winemaking is Megan Gunderson. The two of them have worked together for 12 years or more, I think, even now. And so when we're doing tank walks during harvest, for example, they finish each other's sentences. You know, they're they're a fabulous team. They disagree in the winemaking side when we're blending and stuff like that, because that's the time. I think winemaking is one of those few things that is really better done by committee. And I think that's really great, but we're very cohesive. And so our business has grown from what I thought was going to be about 7,500 cases a year to now well over 100,000 cases a year. And it is due, I think, principally to the fact that we have a fabulous team. I think we also made a decision early on. This was actually counter to what my original plan was, to not own all of the vineyards from which we make wine, but rather to partner with other vineyards, because it became I like the control of farming is my background. I like the control in the vineyard, but the very best vineyards often don't come on the market. I mean, at any price. Right. And so, and not that we could have paid any price, but you just, when you can find great vineyards, they are often owned intended to by people who share the same sort of love of the dirt that we do. And so we've just found these just wonderful partners that have been such a part of our growth, both for Hall and Walt and Baca. Actually, all three of them. It's a sort of a principle that goes across all three brands.
And these are, I assume, pretty long-standing relationships that you buy every year from these same folks that have come to work with you. That's great. Right.
They are. And I think during the fires of 2017, I mean, some of these folks, we bought grapes even though we weren't going to use them. You know, I mean, this is a long journey. It's not a one-off transaction. And so I think you gain respect by a lot of things, and hopefully we all know that we are all there I feel they are there for us, and I think that they have a sense that we're there for them.
Yeah, well, that's great. I love it. So many different questions I want to ask you. I feel like, can we talk about Little Bunny Foo Foo?
Totally. Let's.
It's a trademark when you're driving down, like you see it there, and I know it's a huge part of the story, but give me, who is Little Bunny Foo Foo for anybody who doesn't know?
So Little Bunny Foo Foo, Little Bunny Foo Foo is 31 feet long. He's made out of stainless steel. He is absolutely gorgeous. He reflects the sky and the clouds, and he's beautiful to look at, and he greets you when you come into Napa Valley. He is there because I really wanted to have a bunny on the property. When my kids were little, really very little, I would walk through daily in my family's vineyard with them, and we would sing this song. It goes, "Little bunny foo foo, hopping through and we would substitute vineyard for forest, hopping through the vineyard, scooping up the field mouse and piping wine." Anyway, so yeah, and so it just seemed like that would be a really cool thing to do. And then we found this Lawrence Argent, the artist, who does these huge sculptures that are just beautiful. He's got the the iconic sculpture in Denver, for example, the big blue bear that's outside the convention hall looking in. And he did this one for us. So anyway, that's why he's there. And actually, when he first came, we had a lot of pushback in the community. We had folks who just thought, he's so big and, various things. And change is different. It's difficult for all of us to one extent or another. But anyway, he was beautiful. And I just love that now he is off and he's like the symbol for Napa now.
Yeah, he's gone the opposite direction. Yeah, I love that. Yeah, so we will probably talk about it a little bit later, but in your book, you talk a lot about that. And you also talk a lot about quite a few other, hardships that were involved with neighbors and the resistance to change with the wineries that you're building, the rabbit and all that kind of stuff. How is that now? Everybody loves you guys, nothing?
Well, I don't know that. I don't know. I think nothing is static. And when you want to plant vineyards and we're not standing still. We're growing in various ways. And so that always, that has ripple effects. And so I think our credibility over time has grown. Yeah, I hope so too. But at the same time, I think that it's just a part of life, that if you are making changes, if you're experimenting with things, if you're trying new approaches, I think there's going to be pushback, and you just get ready. You just deal with it.
Yeah, I'm sure.
And you be true to yourself. I think the main thing is if you feel you're on the right path, then that's what's really important.
I love that. What a good answer. So I'm trying to pack in all of these amazing parts of your life into 10-second sound clips here, but can you talk a little bit about both? I'm sure it's a huge aspect of you in Austria for those 4 years you were out there. And then, what is that? Is that on my end?
Maybe.
Is there something very loud happening up?
No.
I'm going nuts. Again, so about your several years in Austria, and then also I'd love to kind of talk a little bit about the caves, because I know the stories are a little related.
Great.
Because what an amazing thing that is. But would you mind?
Sure.
Okay.
So Austria was a dream. Living in Austria is this an opportunity to have a beautiful quality of life. It's a place that where music is in the heart of everyone, and the saying is that Austrians are born with skis on their feet. And so if you love music and you love to ski, which is moi, so bin ich, say in German, but it was an ideal place to live in from a quality of life perspective, but at the same time, and also for your kids, for my kids, the schools were great. But at the same time, we could do some important work, because Austria is it is the most eastern part of what used to be called the free world. So if you look at a map, Vienna is way into what otherwise was behind the Iron Curtain. And so that opened up a whole lot of important work that we could do with allies and countries that would become allies to the east. And that's a very important part of U.S. interests, or traditionally has been. And so we were able to do, I think, a lot of really good work. When I was there was right at the tail end of the war that was in Bosnia. And so it had ended by the time I got there, but we were could be in the position of doing sort of reparations, rebuilding infrastructure down in that part of the world. And then on top of that, I was there during the sort of a lot of the Holocaust, the vestiges of the Holocaust came to the fore. So we dealt with a lot of property that had been Aryanized, that had been taken over by the Nazis during World War II, and we were in a position to support reparations and sort of returning property to the rightful owners, which is I am incredibly proud to be American anyway, but to see the moral leadership that our nation displays and the potential influence that we have on the world was the greatest gift of all of those 4 years, was just to see that we made a difference, and we made a difference in policy, and we also made a difference in terms of the lives, just individual lives, So
what a reward.
It was great.
Yeah, I can only imagine. That's fantastic. And so while you're in the middle of all that, though, you're also back in California prior to the winery. You're dealing with producing, like on a custom crush pad or something, your first couple of vintages.
Yeah. I mean, I was not so involved, honestly. I mean, I had more than I can say grace over there, but it was. But we were producing. We were custom crushing up at Rombauer, who was doing some wonderful work for us then, and we were just sort of getting the vineyard settled and just getting in and building our home, and so a lot of stuff was going on then.
Okay, well, so then we move back. Then let's get into these amazing caves.
So this is actually the caves are right behind my house, and we built that. There's a little winery in Rutherford that has a cellar that is actually based all around the vineyard that is right there. Did you just take a glass of wine? You are ahead of me. I hope that was the Kathryn Hall.
I've been staring at this the entire, because my point, whenever I talk, my go-to is you drink whatever, and I've been waiting so long to drink it, and I couldn't resist.
Well, hey, then me too. Ta-da!
Ta-da, get into it.
Here we go. 2016. So anyway, let me see. I was telling about the caves. So the caves are, this is a little winery that it's right near our home, at Stone's Throw. And we did it, the same architect that worked on our home did this sort of a smaller version of the house. So the idea was that we could greet guests, but do it with, and maintain some privacy for our family. And so it I think really worked out well. And then underneath that structure, we placed caves, and they are done by a fellow that I met while I was in Austria. His name is Fritz Gruber, and he lives, I think, the world's greatest cave builder, wine cave builder. And he lives in a little town in Austria. This is so serendipitous, called Gutenstein. Gutenstein means good stones. Is that perfect?
Right? That's exactly right.
Right. Yeah, this guy was made to do his work. And he has, through his family, he has access to old historic bricks that come from old buildings in Austria that have been torn down or destroyed or whatever. And so he collects these bricks, and then he used them in constructing the wine cave. So for me, Austria was a big part of my life, for my husband and for our kids. It was a huge part of the life, in our life to this day. Our great memories come from Austria so much. So now we go to the cave, and it's just like being sort of back in a place that we still think of as a home.
Yeah. Oh, that's fantastic. And I think I can't remember the exact phrase, but I think you were not arguing over price, but trying to get an idea out of him. And he said something along the lines of, I'm not going to make money, you're not going to make money, but we're going to both walk away happy, or something like that.
Well, yes. Actually, I mean, he made zero money. He did this as a favor to me. and he charged only his cost. So the cost of his brooks, the cost of transporting, the cost of the labor, it was Austrian labor that helped us install. So it was
yeah, I love that.
pretty special.
That's such the epitome of dedication and passion to your craft to do something like that.
Yeah.
But anyways, we're both
Thank
smelling
you.
and tasting. Let's
Yes.
let's
Yeah.
actually. So we're going to talk about the 16, which is what we both have in the glass, and this is the Kathryn Hall.
It is Kathryn Hall. Yes.
Kathryn Hall. This is DU.
Okay. It's good. It's really good. So this comes. So I was saying that this vineyard, the core of this fruit is from the Sacrochet vineyard, which is right behind my house, and it's at an elevation of about 750 feet. So it displays all of these qualities that you expect from hillside fruit, what I think of qualities, advantages of hillside fruit: longer hang time, the sort of cooler days, warmer nights, just really beautiful growing conditions. And the soil is this volcanic ash, so it holds no water, which means that the vines really have to struggle, and the vineyard, the vines are actually smaller, and all the berries are definitely smaller. And so what you get are these very small berries. And Mike, I know you know this, but I'll just say it for your viewers, that when you have a really small berry, the ratio of skin to juice is high, and so the and the seeds. So you get the sort of the tannins, and these flavors come out of this. So from the skin and the seed, and so this is the juice that comes off of this vineyard tends to be very tannic. That's our challenge every year, is to make a wine that is that retains the tannins, but that also is opulent, which is the style that we hope to make off of this wine. So this is blended in with some other fruit, often, not always, but other hillside fruit that just sort of softens the tannins, but retains this sort of these earthy qualities, tobacco qualities, things that you expect to get off of hillside fruit.
Yeah. Well, the tannins are obviously very present, but that's not at all. It's not overwhelming or anything like that. It's very well balanced, and opulent's a great word.
Yeah. And also, this wine, we have more history with this wine than any of our wines, and because this is the first wine we made. And it, as you would expect, because it has a lot of tannin, it ages very well. I had a 2003 not that long ago, and it was still good. It was still good. It's different. Yeah, as all wines, they age, the fruit diminishes, the secondary qualities come out, you get more of the earthiness, more of the tobacco and stuff. But it's still a beautiful vineyard, and we feel just my dad used to talk about he was an environmentalist before people talked about being environmentalists. It's just like he said, you never own the earth. You're the caretaker. Your job is to take the best care of that land for as long as it's, that you're lucky enough to have it in your possession. And I think that's what
I love that.
This is beautiful land.
So speaking of the beautiful land, we're not drinking it, but can we talk about the 17?
Yes, let's. It really is. We're very excited about the 2017. It's a great wine. And let me say, I feel we deserve. I'm glad it's a great wine. Often winemakers will say that they are most proud of the difficult years, and we are very proud of the 2017 because it gives us the the tannins. It is not out yet. Otherwise, we would be drinking it too. But we will bring it out in September. It'll be ready to come. And that's when we do these Kathryn Hall releases. We used to take the Kathryn Hall release party on the road pre-COVID, but now it's a virtual experience. So, anybody who's watching and who wants to join us online, I hope you'll check out our website and join us, because we've got some fun things. Oh, will you? Great. It's and I don't know. Do you know the Brothers Osborne? It's a country.
Oh, no.
Oh, yeah. Oh, no.
So I'm not Taylor Swift is as far country as I get. I'm not much.
I like it. There's all sorts of music, and it's not like it's only country, but country to me is like so much. It's America, it's just like, this is who we are. I mean, I grew up in California. I am in Texas right now, but I like country even when I was a kid in Berkeley, California. To me, it just seems, it's that sort of the crying in your beer stuff just feels like it's
I get the occasional one.
American.
I love storytelling, so I get the occasional story I enjoy, like Devil Went Down to Georgia, or something like that. But for the most part, the twang can get a bit much for me sometimes. Like the Garth Brooks, I can't take very much of that. So, but country is becoming less twangy. Yeah,
and so you don't. In fact, it used to be called country western, and now you just call it country because we're moving away. So anyway, but I also like Strauss waltzes, and I like all that other stuff too. So what can I say?
All over the place.
So now, where were we?
Well, you were going to tell me what the actual difficulties were with the 17 vintage and what you guys did to deal with it. Thanks.
Yeah. Well, 17 seemed like a nice year. I mean, things were going along, everything. What you want for a growing year is really no surprises, no shocks, no protracted heat spikes, you don't want rain at the wrong time, because if you have rain at the wrong time, you'll lose berries. So you just want no surprises, just even growing temperature. And that's pretty much what we were having in 2017. It was great. It was the second year that we were out of our drought in California. But then we got hit with these fires, and they were, it was devastating. It was devastating from a personal perspective. We had folks all over the valley who were displaced, who had to be evacuated, anyway, lots of personal strife. And you deal with it. So you just take what comes your way. And so we had one of our winemaking staff whose sole job was to do research on how do you deal with grapes that are harvested in a fire season. And so, we don't have experience with that in Napa Valley, luckily, although God, I hope we don't.
Yeah.
Get that. That's an experience I don't want to learn. But although we're having some issues now, we can come back to that if you want later. But Australia did, and so Australia really had done a lot of research in terms of this of dealing with smoke taint, and we didn't know if we were going to have smoke taint. We got so much of our grapes in before, but not all. And so what we ended up doing was, we've always considered ourselves these sort of micro farmers, and when we harvest grapes, we put them in, we use very small tanks. I mean, it's only a handful of our tanks are over 10 tons. So we can do hundreds of lots of wines. So that means that when we collected the grapes, we were able to separate them into very, very small lots, and the ones we knew were fine were over in, some tanks, and then we would put them in others. So that really helped us a lot. I think we were also aided by the fact that the vineyards that we source grapes from were all over the valley. We literally are top to bottom, east to west, valley floor to the top of Howell Mountain. We're everywhere at Atlas Peak. So we had a big diversity of grapes, and so we found that so the wines were tasting fine that we were making, but we also knew, based on the experience in Australia, that sometimes the effects of smoke taint come out late in wines. And so so you do a chemical analysis on your wine, but you watch it. And so we were like really very intense on this, and we bought a piece of equipment that does reverse osmosis. That it was we're prepared if this happens again.
Right.
But it's a super expensive process, but anyway, it was very helpful to us. I mean, it's just and I think the part of the reason we were able to survive 2017 is just we've always had this mindset of experimentation. We've just done that from the beginning. It's always like trying to be proactive and figure out different ways. So I was saying, like, these small lots that we've always made, that was very helpful to us in 2017. But it's also just, it's a mindset that carries through to the way we make our Pinot Noir, the experiments we do there, I don't want to get too far off here, but we are fermenting in upright wood tanks now, and concrete, in addition to the traditional stainless steel. I mean, just sort of playing around with all the different things and the different tools, because that's what
Diversified.
I think wine, it is. And it also, I think it keeps you fresh. And I can tell you from a management perspective, the reason I think that we are able to acquire and maintain the very top talent in our industry is because top talent is attracted to this, to an environment where they can have free reign, where they can try out their ideas and experiment, so if you sort of support creativity, you get creativity. And so that's been, I think, really, really great for us. So anyway, so 2017, we watched it really carefully. We blended really carefully. The quantity of wine that we put out was much smaller. I mean, we threw out a lot of juice and never made it into wine. Our whole Atlas Peak vineyard that we own over at Walt Ranch, we didn't use any of that. We didn't even produce that wine. There's a wine up at Mount Vita we didn't make, just because, and these are, you hate to lose these grapes. But anyway, I think, you put your name on the bottle. You want people to remember who you are, and that's what a brand is all about. I want people to know that when they buy a Hall or a Walt or a Baca, that they're going to get something that we're proud to have our name on.
Right, absolutely. Well, I look forward to trying it.
Me too, you. Yeah.
It's kind of a great segue into another, another difficult vintage I want to talk about.
For me, the hardest one was 2011, because 2011 was when we had this rot, and let me just sort of remember how this went. It was that things were going fine. That's the thing about Mother Nature. You never really know. But but things were going great. And then we had, it was very hot and we had rain. That was it. We had rain that came just at the very end of the cycle of the growing period. So we had this, we were afraid about rot. And so, I mean, people were trying all sorts of things. One of my good friends in the valley rented a helicopter and flew it way low over his grape, so that with the idea that he could maybe create movement in the air and stir it up so that they could avoid the rot. What our team thought of to do, which is just in retrospect, well, it was lucky and it was brilliant. They were out in the vineyard, and this is, by the way, this is something that goes along with when you farm organically, as we do, and always sustainably, but organically in the ones that we own. You spend a lot of time in the vineyard, and there's just you don't have a choice. You just got to be out there. You got to do pass after pass after pass, just checking on how things are looking. And so that you get to know your vines, I think, especially well when you do that. And so the guys were out there, and they were, there was just a couple of guys on that team that was noticing this, and they realized that if they would shake the vine just so much, not too much, but just the right amount, the rotted grapes would fall to the ground, because the rot was at and I can't remember the botanical term, but the rot was at this place where the stem is connected to the berry. And so that was the weak link in that chain. So if you shook the branch, that weak link dropped, and so the rotted grapes fell to the ground, and the healthy grapes stayed. So anyway, it was so lucky. And so then we had this marketing slogan that was shake and bake. We're going to shake it and bake. We're shake it. We just shake it out, and we ended up great grapes. So the crop was very small, 2011, but I think you ask Allison or Megan what they are most proud of. I am sure they would tell you that 2011. And then it turns out that the fruit, I mean, business-wise, it wasn't so great because we didn't have that much fruit to make into wine, but it was a quality that we were proud to put our name on again, and it turned out to be really great. So, you just have to be creative, and you can't get into this mode of like, oh, woe is me. I mean, hello. I mean, this is Mother Nature gives you, you have to take what you get, and then you go from there.
Well, it's perfect. I'm going to not keep you too much longer. There's two major things that I want to talk about. One of them, obviously, I want to just take a second to talk about Walton Baca. And maybe before we get to that, tell me what it's like the morning that you get a phone call that you had a 100-point wine. What was?
Yeah.
Give me a little bit about that.
Yeah. It was. Well, it was joy. It was just joy. I mean, I think, was I surprised? I guess I was surprised because we hadn't had 100 points before. Did I think we deserved it? You're darn right I did. I actually always felt that our wines were underappreciated until then. Then it's all good. But but I mean, I felt happy. I felt really happy. And there's something about being recognized by your peers. And in your part of our business, I mean, not everybody goes by scores, but scores do matter. I mean,
absolutely.
They are just people. I think if you ask somebody, do you like this banana split? I mean, I think everybody's comfortable to say, I love it. but do you like this wine over here or better than that wine? I don't know that most people feel comfortable in their own ability to distinguish quality. And so critics take on an enormous influential position, I think, in a decision to buy. So yeah, so it was great. And so now and then what happens is it's just this wonderful cycle of when you're making wines that are getting these top scores, because I can't remember the number now. I wish I could, because I think it's very impressive. But all the wines that we have that are over 90, over 95, I mean, it's crazy. And when I remember the first day we got a 90-point score, and I was like ecstatic. I can tell you where I was on that day. And now if I get a 90, I'm ticked. I just feel like we're so good. But I think that people, you start, I think there's an expectation. I know a lot of these tastings are done blind, but I think you sort of get known for for producing quality. And then it's a good influence on critics. I think it also really helps us source grapes from vineyard partners.
That's a good point.
Right, because and that just helps you get better and better and better. So as you were saying, that you made the comment earlier that about how our grape grower partners are long-standing associations, and that's true. But we also have added over the years, little by little, to the portfolio. A more recent one is the Blau Vineyard up in Napa Valley, which we're making a Sauvignon Blanc from. That I just think is killer good. And we call it Napa Valley Sauvignon Blanc. It's under Hall, but so we have a chance. There are people who have wonderful vineyards who now are interested in selling us grapes that before weren't so interested. So it's a very happy position to be in, and I'll take it. Yeah.
Well, finally, let's talk about your foray into the world of Pinot, and then your foray into the world of Zinfandel.
Yeah, great.
So how did we get here, and what's the catalyst? And
let's see. Well, let's talk about Baca first. So that's Baca is our Zinfandel brand. It is principally Zinfandel, but we're playing around and experimenting with Baca a lot now. We just produced, we did a Carignan red. By the way, when I was growing up, everybody called it Carignan, but now we are much more sophisticated. We call it Carignan. But anyway, it's so I still call it Carignan, and so we have that, and then we just came out with a fabulous white wine from it's a Roussanne Marsanne. So it's 50-50 Roussanne grape, 50% Marsanne grape, and we call it Stargazer. And it's a very small production. I just hope that we make a lot more of it, because I'm crazy about this wine. And also, you can make these grapes are less expensive, so we can offer them at a lower price. So anyway, so the Baca brand is, I think, really sort of evolving, but its core is Zinfandel. I love that. It's the first grape my dad planted, and probably the first wine that I truly loved. But that was back in the days when you wouldn't go to a Zinfandel for finesse. You would go to it for the just chewy and big. And so we felt that there was an opening in the market under Zinfandel, where you could make a really quality Zinfandel in the sort of using the same micro farming approach that we use in Cabernet and Pinot Noir, but use it in Zinfandel and try to produce some wines that had that lovely, rich fruitiness that you expect from a Zinfandel, but also bring more elegance in it than we see. So, and then we wanted to sort of play around with it. So we did that. And also my daughter is running that brand, and so she's very keen on that and is doing a lot of stuff for she wants to produce a wine that we can make available more to millennials and people who don't want to. Not everybody, I wish this were true, but not everybody wants to spend the money on a quality Cabernet that I mean, we can't. I think our prices are fair, but they are still, they're not cheap. And so if we can make produce wines that are a bit less expensive, but still top quality, I think that's what we hope to do with our vodka brand. And so it's sort of playing around there. The Walt is our Pinot Noir and Chardonnay brand, and that is Walt is my maiden name. So I was a Walt for a long time, and it's I think those wines are, well, let me say, just default to the fact that the scores, we have got more great scores faster with Walt than we ever had with Hall. I mean, Hall, it was sort of a long time coming. Now our scores are great, and that's wonderful. But the Walt was like almost out of the chute, it just lots of accolades. So what we on the Pinot Noir, we do appellation wines, but what we really like to do is to do these single vineyards, because Pinot it's actually geekier, than Cabernet. People love to talk about the clones, and it's not just the vineyard, but it's, all these different parts of it. So you can do that much more easily on a single vineyard wine. And on top of that, it really gives our winemaking team, which is very creative to begin with, more latitude for creativity. So we make these Pinots that go from 1,000 miles. We call it 1,000 miles of Pinot. So it goes all the way from Willamette, the Shea Vineyard up in Oregon, down to Santa Rita Hills down by Santa Barbara. So at every step along the way, each of these wines, I think they just, they're very distinctive. Same quality level, it's just different areas. And so that's true. Our main, our flagship vineyard there, probably our Kathryn Hall to Walt, is our Bob's Ranch. Bob is my dad's name. I'm really all about naming things after my family. I just I like it too. I mean, I want people to know we're people. We really care. We're not a big company, and so we do beautiful Chardonnays and Pinots, and the Chardonnays. I'm a big Chardonnay fan, and so to any of you who have, wait till our 2018 Chardonnays come out. I mean, they're killer. I'm crazy about these. Every one of them. But we in terms of experimenting, we have sort of changed a bit our. When we pick, we've changed. We pick a little earlier. The grapes are a little less ripe. Our oak treatment is a little different, a little less. They are a little more fruit driven. So anyway, all of these brands, Hall, Walt, Baca, they're evolving. I hope evolving means getting better. I think we are refining. We're learning. Along the way. Well, we're having a lot of fun while we're doing it.
Well, good. Well, thank you so much for talking to me. I will tell people to check out your book. You wrote a book.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, I thought it was fantastic, and it gets across it gets across so much of your love of just Napa, but mostly just I just feel like before I even talk to you, that I get the feeling that you want nothing more than to walk through vineyards. You have that passion, and I think it's really cool. And it's so many more stories I want to talk about. You and Craig getting together and everything else. But people check that out. It's a really cool book. But
thank you, Mike. It's called a perfect score.
A perfect score.
A perfect score because, we were hoping for 100 points. So it's our sort of journey to our first 100-point score. And then let me just say one more thing about the book. And Craig and I made this decision that we were going to agree on every word that went into the book. It was terrible. I mean, we both this book, I will never do it. I will never write a book again with my husband. But the book is a lot shorter than we expected to be because we agreed that we would agree on all of it. And then after the book came out, but before it was published, it was a New York Times bestseller, just saying. But before it was published, we had another 100-point. And so then the publisher came back and said, do you want to do an epilogue about your second 100-point? And we both looked at each other and said, no way. We can't. We made it this far.
We're good.
We're done. Yeah, we're done. So.
Oh, well, it was a very wonderful, charming read. And your wines are delicious. I love all of them. So gosh, thank you so much for your time. This is fantastic.
Thank you, Mike. It's been so fun. I love what you do. I'm so glad that you're doing it. Enjoy yourself down there.
There you have it. Another episode down. Thank you so much. Thank you to you for listening. Please click on my face, subscribe if you're watching this, share, tell your friends. I'll be taking next week off, but after that, we're going to do some spooky, fun episodes, I hope. So it should be a fun October. Otherwise, thank you, Kathryn. What a great opportunity to get to sit down and talk to you. Your wines are delicious. Keep it up. Hope to meet you in person one day. All right. See you next week. Till then, chin chin.
Cheers!